Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your man, Montell Jordan, and right now you're watching We Sound Crazy. So I learned during that time period, and I'm talking crazy stuff, but we had house fire, we had lost a child, lost a record. Like, just the story is crazy. But in that time period of brokenness, I found out I am a son, not just to my mother and father, but I'm a son of God. I learned everything I am without a mic. And in that process, I learned that what I do doesn't define who I am. Who I am defines what I do.
Welcome to another week of We Sound Crazy, your official backstage pass to all things music and culture. Your boy Phillionaire is in the building.
Claude Kelly is in the building.
What's up? Chuck Harmony is in the building.
What up, y'all? Bacon for Macon is in the building.
We sound crazy. Montell Jordan with the new jingle is in the building.
That's the best intro we ever had.
That's the best intro.
Crazy.
That's it.
I was going to set up for him and say author, pastor, Grammy Award winning artist,
Yes.
amazing songwriter, producer, father, husband.
Yeah.
Y'all friends.
All around great human being. And a
friends.
distinguished brother of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity incorporated.
You know what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Montell Jordan's in the building. Make some noise.
What's up, y'all?
We're happy you are here, man.
I'm glad to be here, bro.
Another multi-hyphenate. People that do wear many hats and wear them well.
There we go. I appreciate being here, man. This is a comfy, beautiful spot in the world to be in right now.
It's a comfy spot to be in. We're just talking about our love for music, and you're such a big part of Black music, both on stage and behind the scenes.
Word.
That we gotta talk about all that you've done in this business and just to shift culture because it shifts culture.
Yeah.
Shifting culture is a huge label to say to make that statement.
Yeah.
Listen, we're gonna get into it, but on several moments, culture was shifted. But I mean, the longer you do it, the more you realize how rare it is to number one have a hit, number one have a hit that lasts, number one have a hit that keeps on coming back over and over and over again. Yeah. And that's been accomplished a couple times over. So gotta celebrate.
What I want to know is that when you were playing piano in LA when you was a little guy, what was on your mind? Was it singing? Was it writing? Was it being an artist? Was it being famous? What was it?
Bondage. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, literally, I played piano. My boy Shep Crawford, who was
shout out Shep Crawford,
amazing producer, now pastor. We were brought up in church, so I'd be on the piano, he'd be on the organ, or he'd be on the piano, I'd be on the organ. So, but that was just childhood. Like it wasn't like I was thinking, man, one day I'll make $1 billion. It wasn't that. It was just literally like other kids is playing basketball. I can't wait till we're done doing this so we can go out and be like regular kids because we were not like regular kids as child musicians. In the world of, this was like the James Cleveland, Eric Clark Sisters commission era of music, and finding dope musicians was very, very difficult to do at that time period when I was a youngster coming up. And so my pastor was like, rather than try and find and pay, these other dope musicians all throughout LA, let me just create my own. So he brought us in, a bunch of kids, got a guy to play bass, guy to play drum, guy on keys, guy on organ. And that's who we became to be able to come in and start learning how to play music by ear. I couldn't even read music. I learned how to play music by ear.
That church training is like nothing else, though, for music.
Yeah.
And it's needed.
It's something else.
It's something else. You said it's needed?
It's needed today. Yeah.
It's missing a little bit?
It's missing.
Would you agree with that?
You know what? I think that there is a training ground. People will argue about LeBron's son, about Bronny being in the league, and some will say, yo, you need to be in the G League, you need to get better, this and that, the other. The farm leagues do definitely have their value. There's value in that. And so I do think that a lot of the musicians and songwriters who came from the period that I was in, like I can tell you firsthand, my entire band was church musicians. It was killing it. And some of the guys that were church musicians with us that we didn't have room for in the stable back then, they became church musicians for Missy Elliott and for all types of different people. So it was just kind of like I think that's a good, solid training ground because it not only gives you technique and gives you potentially the ability to read music and sonically be able to understand, but it gives you the soul component of being able to feel something.
Yeah.
So even though I could not play music that was written, I could play music that wasn't written. Right? So like even when I come in, I'm joking, I say, we sound crazy. Every time I've been jokingly doing that, I've been doing it in the same key. Because for whatever reason, when I hear it, I hear it that way. And that's how I was trained. When a pastor, I think I feel my help coming on.
We sound crazy.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's it. You know?
I think also I realized, I think a lot of people thought that the music industry, the business part, was setting the standard. But actually, I think I would say now in retrospect, it was that church training ground that was setting the bar of like, when you grow up in church, like there's levels, like you can't just get a solo. You got to show that you can handle a solo, that you can move the church and all this stuff. And I think that was what made people come into the business and say, no, I've learned already how to rock a crowd, how to have conviction. And that's also the stage presence is missing too. How to actually do a show.
Yeah. I definitely think one of the things that I learned early on that I think, and I don't want to call it showmanship or performance. I think there's a difference between performing and reaching and allowing the crowd to perform with you. And so in a church, it's different from, you could tell the people that would just, sing a song, yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me, for the Bible tells me so. Great song or whatever, and somebody could sing that. But when somebody says, yes, Jesus loves me. Oh, yes, Jesus. Only thing I did right there was I broke the you're watching me until now you're joining me. And because the church, at least the black church, forces you to do that. Like in some churches, CCM culture, whatever, people, they listen, they enjoy it, and they ingest it, you know what I mean? Black church, grandmama gonna be like, sing, boy, sing, and when they're giving you that energy and you feeding off of that, that's where you get the Fantasias and you get the, the folks that really know how to go.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to know, like, as a young buck, right? When you're leaving church, what are you turning on, like, when you're moving away from the gospel? Because I'm sure there were some moments where you like, I want to hear something else outside of gospel. What is young Montell playing?
Oh, man.
What are the go-to projects? No,
very, very different. Like I said, this was a very different time period. For me, this is pre-streaming and all that. So you had the radio, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, California. So as a child, I can remember the two stations I was listening to if I were hopping in the car to go somewhere were a pop station called the Mighty 690, or I was listening to 1580 K-Day. Back with Russ Parr and Bobby Jimmy and the Critters, and that's the only place you could hear hip hop and rap music at that time. So I was listening to a culmination of it was three things. I was listening to pop music, so I was all into Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, Phil Collins, Lionel Richie, anybody that had crossed over into that pop, Bananarama, like Men at Work, like I know all those songs by heart. So that was one side. And then 1580 K-Day was giving me the hip hop side. That's where I got introduced to all the rap that was coming out of, Eric B. and Rakim and stuff like that coming out of the East. And then I had KJLH, which was a station eventually now I think it's owned by Stevie Wonder. And that's where I was getting my Luther Vandross and Freddie Jackson and the R&B. So for me, it was all of those things. It was pop, just starting to come into hip hop and a lot of R&B.
Exposure.
Exposure to a lot of different things. And literally, if you go back and you listen to my earlier music, if you go back and listen to my first album, I literally had 17 samples on that album because I wanted to pay homage to all the different eclectic things that I was pulling out. I did a song called Payback with Coolio. God rest his soul. I knew him very well, and his wife, who's also in heaven now, ex-wife. But in that song, I do a rap, a kind of a singy rap thing where I say, girl, it feels like payback. I really, really hate to say that I thought you were trifling, giving me the shove, but you're gonna miss my love, which is Lou Rawls. And I said, oh, golly, Wally, she was raised in hell, which is Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. So unfaithful, full force. Way back, I was cheating. You want to get even, but I ain't going out like that, which was I ain't going out like that. I ain't got Cypress Hill. I apologize for all the lies. Oh, forgive me, girl. I'm sorry. There's a right and a wrong way to love somebody. That was Keith Sweat. So just in that one verse, one verse, if you go back and listen to just that second verse of that song, I got 6 samples like right there that I had to pay all of those people for just little lines that I was throwing. But I was just like, man, this is just me. And I just want to show that I love these artists or whatever.
It's funny you mentioned just the rap singing part of it, because I do recall at least where I was growing up. Like that when you came out, it was one of the first times I saw.
You remember this from the 3rd grade?
Yeah. Absolutely. But it was one of the first times I saw where the women loved it, the kids loved it, the dope boys loved it. All the quote unquote thugs loved, like, because there was an arm.
What dope boys you know in the 3rd grade?
Listen, listen. I've
you don't
had
know me.
Yeah. We know they was dope boys. But but they, they protected the hood. But I just remember everybody loving it because there was a hip hop element to it.
Yeah.
But then there was an R&B sensibility to it that people who may not have necessarily gotten with hip hop could relate to as well. And so it was funny you pointed that out, because I feel like you were one of the first people to really incorporate that.
Can I give you some of the formula of where that comes from?
Sure.
First of all, I was goofy as an artist. Like I was big, cheesy, smiley. And by the time I got to Def Jam, like I was a project, bro. They had to do surgery on me to make me the cool, whatever R&B artist that never smiled, that was always doing that. Like that was not me. I'm just naturally, we sound crazy. That's me. And Def Jam was like, no, you can't do that. Like we hard. Like we, got all these artists and that. You got to be And so part of it came in that the women at the time who were working at the label, they were almost like the markers of creating what a male artist was going to be. And literally, the rule of thumb was, in order to be successful in the music business, men had to want to be you, girls had to want to be with you. If you could do those 2 things, where men want to be you and women want to be with you, if you got any talent or whatever, you can be successful. You can look at certain artists and you could be like, yo, men appreciate this dude because of his voice, this or that, but girls don't necessarily want to be with him. There's a certain level that they'll be able to reach. And I tell you, even like the female artists or whatever, if they got if guys want to be with her and the girls want to hang with her and be her bestie or whatever, you ain't got to have a whole lot of talent. And so that was a part of the marker of, they wanted to create somebody that guys wanted to be and women wanted to be with. So that's why I had to have that thug persona, hat turned backwards, hood, I'm pushing up in the big whip, the big black truck or whatever. And that rap element was what made me stand apart from the guys that I sounded like. So just another quick story. Y'all got to tell me to shut up. So what would happen is, I knew how to imitate other people. I knew how to sound like Aaron Hall from Guy. I knew how to sound like, how we sitting there going through these songs. We know every single ad-lib. When you love a song, you know the inflections. You start to sound like them, and that's what I was doing to try and get into the music business. And I remember sitting in the living room of a Motown executive at the time, and he was like, yo, you dope or whatever, but you sound like Aaron Hall, and there's already an Aaron Hall, and you sound like this guy R. Kelly, and there's already an R. Kelly. So I sounded like a lot of other people. So I had to try and figure out, what do I actually sound like? And so that was a part of the development of where the hip hop comes in, because, well, I know these guys can sing, I can sing, but these guys can't necessarily rap in a cipher and throw bars together or whatever. And so I started writing rap lyrics, and then I would sing them. So literally, even the song Payback that I just sang for you. Nobody is singing, girl, it feels like payback. I really, really hate to say that. I thought you was trifling, giving me the shove, but you're gonna miss my love. Golly Wally, she was raised in hell. She was so unfaithful. Way back I was cheating, you wanna get even. I ain't going out like that. But I said, way back I was cheating, you wanna get even, but I ain't going out like that. So I would take rap lyrics and I would just put melody, even with This Is How We Do It. When I say I reach for my 40 and I turn it up, designated driver, take the keys to my truck. Listen, bro, who can say designated driver, take the keys to my truck and put it in a song?
Yeah.
Now, so if you want to fast forward and say, was I at the forefront maybe
I'm about to say
of
this.
putting a lot of words in a little bit of space?
Yeah.
Because today's songs,
is that.
you know, when people are singing a song, they started with a slow beat and they can put a billion words in this.
Yep.
Shouldn't let me talk to you for a second in the moment of the everybody knows I'm done, but the guy don't find the dancer. You know, it's like this, you know, and so maybe I started that, or at least was a part of the beginning of that. Because
100%.
We talk about that all the time, how the advantage of rap over sung music is that they can just tell a bigger story in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
By the time you're like, girl,
Yeah.
I love you.
That's right.
They're like, let me tell you what it is.
You know where they
You get a whole story.
Twisted on back, 3 women at a time.
Yeah. You got all that in.
And Montell, you were Def Jam, but you were also signed to Def Soul. The launch, you were the first artist on Def Soul.
I was the godfather of Def Soul.
Come on, Godfather.
And here's what that means. Godfather of Def Soul means I was a guinea pig. No. Really. What that meant was I came in and I bridged the gap for Def Jam to get into radio, because Def Jam had rap artists that was not going to be played on R&B radio, because R&B radio didn't play rap back then.
Yeah.
Like if you heard a song, it wasn't going to be no rap on it. You have to have a version that don't have no rap on it, because it was just R&B, straight R&B, straight R&B, straight R&B. And what happens is when I come in with this, once upon a time, not long ago, you know, what people wear pajamas and I did the Slick Rick. You know, Montell made no money in life, said was slow. And all they said was 6'8". They were like, well, is he singing or is he rapping? You know, I joke, I said I was Drake before Drake was Drake, because like I was singing certain pieces, but radio couldn't tell if I was singing or if I was rapping. And so that opened the door for, well, Montell Jordan has a song with LL Cool J. Montell Jordan has a song with Fleshbone from Bones and Huggins and Thought. Montell Jordan has a song with, and because it was R&B and people loved what I was doing, it allowed the rap artists to start being featured, you know what I'm saying, on these songs. Yes. So it was the beginning of R&B and rap music starting to have babies, and I was a part of that. And so with that, because I came out with the up-tempo records, I was coming with the club bangers, you know, when it got time to try and break a ballad record on me, Def Jam, as dope as they are now, they weren't able to do that. Like they were like, we need another up-tempo Montell banger, because they, you know, it was hard for them to take me the ballad route. I got known for This Is How We Do It, Something for the Honeys. I dropped Daddy's Home. Okay, let's go to the next album. I Like on the Nutty Professor soundtrack, you know, they come with Falling, and it's kind of like, okay, let's come with another up-tempo. Let's Ride, you know, even Let's Ride, which was slow, it had a bounce to it. So you could still bounce to it, you know, but those type of songs, every time we would come with a ballad, we would get into crazy beef at the label because they couldn't break these ballads. So I had to start doing the ballads that I loved and giving them to other people, you know, the Cisco's,
and boy,
Little
did you.
Mo's, and Deborah Cox and things like that.
Wait, so they couldn't break What's On Tonight?
It was a good record. I don't even know if it was top 10.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
a great
It was tough.
Tell me what's on
tonight. I'm coming to your crib. Dinner by candlelight.
Come on,
We gonna
Montell.
watch some TV. We gonna play your CDs. I'm gonna be on you, and you gonna be on me. For your youngsters out there that don't know what a CD is,
Break it down for them.
we sound crazy.
We sound crazy.
Get it on tonight
All
from our
right.
special guest, Montell Jordan.
Yeah, man.
I always wonder who did the I'm ready. Who was that?
Her name is Dee Dee Foster.
We
And-
can get it on.
Yeah. So let me share this quick story. This song was brought to me by a label executive who was like, yo, you got to sing this song. And I was like, the song is cool, but I've never done a song that I didn't write. And so even though I heard the record, every song I'd done in my career, I wrote it. This song, I heard it, I liked it. A guy had done like a white label version of it over in the UK. And I don't know if the label shelved it. I don't know what happened with it, but it was just like, it's a great song, but it's just not me because I didn't write it. Months of this goes by. I wake up one morning and I'm hearing, let's go somewhere and get it. And so I like, okay, I want to do the song, but I got to be a writer on the song. Will you talk to the producers, talk to the writers? Will they cut me in as a writer on the song and I'll do the song? They go to the writers. They're like, yeah, let's let him in on this joint. So I then go, I take the song, and from the original version of the song, what's different about it, one, other than my delivery or my ad-libs, is I created the bridge with a, girl, if you're ready, I'm ready, then we can get it on. We can get it on. I know where I went wrong. You went wrong. And
It's my favorite part of the song.
Dee Foster, I hope she gets to see this someday. Dee Foster was an amazing vocalist. She was one of my background vocalists. She came in, and this was a time period when it was just like, you know, bass guitar come in and play, you get paid to be a bass guitar player. A person come in, they sing backgrounds on the song, they get paid. But like her voice on this song to me is like timeless, and I wish it was a different time period where she could have been featured and it would have been, you know, Montell Jordan featuring Dee Foster, because all women have been singing this song, you know, for 20, almost 30 years now.
That part is so memorable.
And it's a memorable song. And her voice is memorable too. So I'm just saying, you know, Dee, I thank you wherever you are. I love you, and your voice has a place in history on this song. So,
Man, that's a story.
But I know we were talking about, and when we were upstairs, this song has the same music as the Brat Tyrese. Is a very similar.
They're so close.
They're
You ever
Very
catch that?
close.
So
I've always wondered this.
So here's what I don't know.
Okay.
When my song came out, the Get It On Tonight came out, I had a call somehow that I missed. And they said, Jermaine Dupri is trying to reach you. And by the time I was trying to get back out to reach out to Jermaine Dupri, I saw the Brat had a song that used the same sample that had Tyrese on it. Tyrese is my guy. But I'd imagine somewhere in the process of Montell got a hit or whatever, we're gonna use the same sample and get the Brat, you know, for the Brat and have him come sing a different chorus on that. They probably was like, nah, let's not use him. Let's go with a whole different person. So, but my song definitely came first. But you know, when you hear the two songs, love Brat, love Tyrese, like my song better. I do. No, I love Brat. I love Tyrese. I love JD. If those two songs are riding together, one is riding shotgun, and one is driving.
Agreed.
Yeah. God. Listen, it's crazy. It's crazy how that can even happen.
Oh, it happens all.
But it happens all the time.
It happens all the time. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm not sorry because we sound crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's this notion. If you ever heard the story about Michael Jackson and about how he was like, he didn't want to sleep. If he had an idea, he had to get the idea out because he felt like if I don't get this idea out, Prince is gonna get it.
Yeah.
God is gonna give it to Prince. Literally, both of these guys felt like if I don't do this, the other guy is gonna get it. The other guy's gonna get it. Okay, I do believe that there's some truth to that because a lot of the songs that I've come out with all the time, there's always something else that's similar to it or competing at the same time. When I dropped This Is How We Do It, right as I was about to drop it, a reggae artist named Capleton came out with a song called Tour. Dun, 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 dun,
That's right.
Dun, 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 tour. These dun, 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 tour. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
and I freaked out because I was like, I cleared the sample.
Right.
I went the right route. They just gangsta grabbed the song and used it. It was blowing up. Now, it helped, I think Def Jam eventually signed him as an artist. And so the song could coexist that when This Is How We Do It was playing, you could play Slick Rick Children's Store, you could play into Montell records, you could play into that record. So that was the first time that kind of happened. Then I can remember when I got to my second album, I had a song called I Like that used an average white band sample.
It was the 112. Same sample as 112, right? Yeah. Only you.
What the heck?
Yeah.
And I was doing it. Yeah, I was doing.
That's right.
The sexy way you talk. Ooh, I can't help myself, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mama getting mad like it.
Need to know. Same key.
Same key.
The sample, everything was done in the same key.
Wow.
So DJs, what happened is when my record came out and 112's records come out at the same time, there's the same sample, they're about the same tempo, same timing, same key. So rather than me having a runaway record, they started splitting the panel. Well, we'll play your record 30 times and we'll play their record 30 times as opposed to playing my record 60 times. And so the battle ends up happening where the battle of the remix happens. And so I get Slick Rick. I use the same sample and use use that song for the remix. Bad Boy goes and they grab
Biggie
and Mace and come with that don't. I thought I told you. And when that came, it was just like, oosh, they got a monster. So Nutty Professor soundtrack, that song I Like still sells 1 million copies. So you get 1 million, or I'm lying. It went gold. The single went gold. The soundtrack went platinum. And so that was the second time it happened. Third time it happens, I put out a Let's Ride album. And when I had the song with the track Let's Ride, that
I can do that.
That first track. You also had 112 that had a
anywhere.
That is crazy.
Right? Yeah. And you also had at the same time Let's Ride came out that my boy Genuine had you're on a bounce, ride it, my pony. So I had Let's Ride, he had Ride, they had the We Can Do It. All these songs just kind of are falling in the same area with the same labels,
in the same
around
key,
the
kind
same, yeah. So it's happened multiple times, bro.
You mentioned
crazy, but
you mentioned This Is How We Do It, and that song to this day. I mean, you can go in any. I know in Nashville, against my will, I've been asked to go to bars, and that's one of those songs that not just us.
What you mean Nashville? You talking about every corner of the
Everywhere,
world?
but I'm just because I live in Nashville. I'm often going to different places, and that song still gets everybody to the floor. Like,
I heard it in Mexico City a couple weekends ago.
That's what I'm saying. That
Literally in the club.
everywhere.
I was gonna send you a video. I was like, this is crazy.
And this year's the 30th anniversary of that record.
Yes, it is.
What do you remember? Like, did you all expect that song to like go as far as it did, and it's still going to this day? Like, what was the mindset behind it? Did they just say, "Well, we're gonna get it to top 5," and
okay,
because that's a pop smash.
There's a lot that comes along with that, with answering that question. So I would do my best to keep it concise. This Is How We Do It. I knew I was going to use that track before it ever was This Is How We Do It.
Okay.
So we're talking my college days, my Kappa Alpha Psi, going to the parties, and any DJ that was a decent DJ was not playing that song before 1 o'clock in the morning. Like that's not an 11 o'clock song.
Yeah.
Like there's other records you playing. We get to 12 o'clock. There's other records you playing. When you get into, that last hour, last call for alcohol, the DJ is getting into the heat of his set. That's when you're going to hear songs like Slick Rick's Children's Story. And I would hear that song come on, and I watched the floor literally shift. Like I felt like I literally can remember seeing Annenberg Hall at USC, like literally sweat on the walls. Like when they say to the windows, like it was like a real thing where people being there sweaty. And when that song came out, I watched the whole room start to uncontrollably move. And I would always say, man, if I ever get the chance to sing on that song, I'm gonna sing over that song. I'm gonna sing over that song. So I knew that was gonna happen like long before that ever happened. The second thing that happened with me knowing that song was a hit, how to turn a hit into a classic. Because remember, I'm coming into a time period where sampling is just now starting to be something, the new jack stuff is hitting and you got a lot of drum programming and stuff happening, but samples are now starting to come into play. I knew that I wanted to sample that song. I knew I wanted to sing over that record. But remember, I'm a student of music, and so I got that pop stuff from the Mighty 690. I got the KGLH R&B stuff. I got the hip hop from 1580 K-Day. And so as I'm putting all those things together, I'm studying what is a hit song, what makes a hit record. So I'm going to take you to Marvin Gaye. Got to Give It Up. If you play Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up, there is something you hear before you ever hear the music drop in. And it's something called atmosphere. You hear a crowd like they're in there having a good time before the music. You won't ever hear that song the same anymore. You'll hear that party. You hear a girl laughing like she's uncontrollably, like you hear sounds like there's a party happening, that if they just stopped the music, there was a party happening in the room. I knew that and I felt that. And so I wanted that to be the foundation of This Is How We Do It. So I literally go into the recording studio. I'm in the booth with OG Pierce, so we're in the control room. I invited a bunch of frat brothers, a couple of ladies to come through. I got a keg of beer, and I got some the wine coolers, a bunch of wine coolers, because I like the fruity drinks back at the time. I put them all in the master recording room, set the alcohol and stuff in there. I set up a unidirectional mic in the center of the room. They all came in there. I didn't even go in the room with them. I sat in the other room in the booth with me and OG, and I spoke into the room. I said, hey, y'all enjoy some drinks and have a good time. And I told OG, hit record. And OG started recording, and they started laughing, talking, drinking, hanging out, and it's literally just recording the sound that's happening in the room. Eventually, after they did that for about 30 minutes, I was like, hey, y'all just kind of stand around the mic a little bit, different places in the room, and everybody just say, this is how we do it. They have drunk at this time, not singing it, like, this is
crowd,
how we, right on key. Just,
chant.
this is how, crowd chant.
Wow.
I had them do that like about 6 to 8 times. They got all that. And then at that point, the rest of the song was even fully written, but I knew I had atmosphere, and I knew I had engagement, and I had buy-in from a crowd that was going to respond to that. So when you put on This Is How We Do It, again, the next time you hear it, it'll sound like either the Marvin Gaye joint is going to drop in or the Montell Jordan joint is going to drop in, because all through This Is How We Do It, you will hear the laughter, the atmosphere. You hear
it's an actual party.
It's an actual party.
Which is why it's like one of the biggest party anthems
So
of all
when you
time.
ask the question, did I know? I didn't know the magnitude that the song would have, or the longevity that 30 years later we would be talking about it. But I did know what comprised of a hit song, the composition of a hit record. Those are things that we can all sit back and take a hit record, and we can dissect it and be able to see what are the threads that tie all these records into another thread, whether it be key, whether it be tone, whether it be tempo. Like there's different things, because I mean, it's not like it's a one and done type of this is the formula, but I think there are different formulas and different equations to a hit record. And so did we know it was going to be what it was? It was already a hit. So my objective was to try and turn a hit into a classic. And so some would say that's blasphemy. Why would you even touch that record? And there are records that we would say, bro, don't touch that record.
There's a lot of records that a lot of people felt the way about that at that time that got flipped into classics. I mean, there's just
so many.
You know what I mean? Like it was almost like, how dare you?
Don't touch it. Why would you use that?
But then when you do it and it's a classic,
it becomes a classic. If you can turn a hit into a classic, then you're on to something.
Well, you did it.
You did it. So
we got one.
So I'm curious to know, Montell Jordan 2025.
Yeah.
What would you say to that brother Montell Jordan in 1995 while he was recording This Is How We Do It? What lessons would you say? Be out, watch out for this. So be mindful of this. Like, what wisdom or insight would you give that young Montell in 95?
So much, bro. There's so much. I would have shook that nigga. I'd have grabbed him. I can't hit him, but I could shake him. I would have shook him, man. Oh man, wow. I would have told him that in the music business, the word business is much bigger than music. I would always hear, have lawyers for your lawyers. I would have done that. I made so many mistakes trusting people that I trusted, but did not necessarily have the capability to get something done properly. So you ever heard the line, stash more cash than Burt Podell?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
Biggie.
I knew Burt Podell.
I knew Burt Podell because for a while he was trying to help me get my finances together, because I was like, well, this is a dude I know for the longest time. He's got a business. He's black.
Yeah.
I want to give my business to this person. And I ended up with I ended up with a lot of debt and things to try and crawl out of because I trusted you, but you weren't capable of doing what I needed to have done.
Yeah.
Now, somebody that would look at a Burt Podell and say, oh, but he's a white man, why'd you give it? He was on point. And so one of the things I would have done differently is I would have had somebody watching the people that were supposed to be watching my money, to watch my resources. Another thing that I would have told myself back then is to write more and keep your publishing. I would have never done any publishing deals if I could have.
You wouldn't have done any publishing deals.
Say again?
No publishing
No,
deals.
I wouldn't have.
Wow.
I would not have. I would have tried to stay whole. That's my friend Daryl Simmons, silent partner that did all the records with Babyface.
Yeah, Daryl's been on the show.
Daryl, he once said that to me. He was like, one day, after all these years of music and then recouping and this, that, the other, and they were offering him like a crazy amounts of money for his deal. And his lawyer was like, before you do that, how does it feel to be whole? And I was like, how does it feel to be whole? That's a great statement. So I would have.
It's a powerful statement because I think so much of music is keeping musicians needy because they don't. You make them not feel whole.
That's the currency.
Yeah.
People think that streaming. They think that production is the currency of the music, but the currency, the crypto of the solid investment in the music business is the writers.
Yeah, it's the writers.
The people that write the music. I got a cool story, man. When I went to my first Grammys, it was out on the West Coast when I was there, and Suge Knight was down in front, and everybody was all, the crazy beef was happening at the time, and everybody was all afraid of Suge or whatever. But I'm from the West. I ain't got no issues with Suge or whatever. So me and my label exec, we rolled down. What's up, Suge? Meeting everybody or whatever. I'm walking down the front row, and as I cut back, headed to my seat on the corner, Madonna is sitting on the side, just like right on the corner seat. And I pass by and I see her, and my guy says, "Hey, Madonna, this is Montell Jordan." So I reach out my hand to shake her hand because I've listened to her on the Mighty 690. Like I know her music, and I see her. And when I reach out my hand to shake her hand, she looks at me and she goes, "Don't I own you?"
Wait, what?
Oh, no.
That's what I said. I said, "Huh?" She said, "Don't I own you?" And I was like, I'm not processing. Now, let me take you away from that moment. When This Is How We Do It runs up the charts, before it gets to number one, there's a song there called Take a Bow from Madonna. So This Is How We Do It is the song that took Madonna's record off the number one charts. They tried to do a publishing deal with me for my portion of writers of This Is How We Do It. And we wouldn't do a deal with them. She had a company called Maverick Records. Maverick. And so, but my writing partner, OG Pierce at the time, he did a publishing deal with Maverick, with Madonna. So even though my song took her song out of the number one spot, she was still basically saying, "Don't I own you?" Because I still have that spot that you had that #1 spot.
But Don't I Own You is a crazy.
Yeah, I
damn
don't like
statement.
That's crazy.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
We sound crazy. Yeah, that's facts.
We sound crazy.
I spent all my life.
A classic,
Yeah, man.
Classic.
Yeah.
an evergreen,
A copyright.
Never
a copyright. if
Yes,
you will.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
That song is another one that gets bigger every year.
Yes.
It started out big, and every year it obviously Deborah Cox is fantastic and phenomenal, and she's still singing it at insane
sure.
levels. But it just finds new life every year
It's a
in
singing
new
challenge or
ways.
something.
That's
Yeah.
a challenge,
Yeah.
or whew, the pen, man, the pen.
Let me tell you.
So that song was originally for Patty.
Yes. Yeah.
And now that and it sounds like I hear it.
Okay, so walk us through. I mean, so
Yes.
you reach out to Patty. You and Shep Crawford did that record together. Did you call Patty? Are you dealing with the label?
We had a woman demo the song that sounded like Patty. I wanted to be Shep and I wanted to be unmistakably. You hear this record, you're like, oh, that's me. And I think it's difficult sometimes when people maybe hear themselves, or sometimes you got to hear. Like I had to, even when I would write records, I had to somebody else had to demo them, because if I sang the record when another artist got a song that I'm singing the demo, they hear me and they can't hear themselves on the record. But the song got to Patty. Patty will tell you this herself. The record got to her. I think it was her husband and her son at the time were like, "This is a smash," and she was like, "Nah, I just can't hear it. I just can't hear it." And they were like, "No, you got to do this record." She was like, "Nah, it's just not me." And she didn't like hate the record, but she was just like, "Nah, this just ain't me." So that record went through a bunch of different people. But okay, so to bring it back around of how it was written specifically for Patty, and I've said this when I'm doing my concerts. When I get to the second verse, she says, "This time I swear I'm through, but if only you knew." That was paying homage to "If only you knew how many times I've said those words, then fall again. When will I ever learn? Knowing these tears I've cried, this lovely back butterfly."
Dang.
Like I was throwing all of those things in there because I wanted you to hear and see yourself and feel herself. Like, this is me on this song. So it was crafted specifically to be that way. And she just didn't hear it. I still, to this day, I'm like, Patty, just go in.
You can still cut it.
Say, cut it now.
You know,
Patty's favorite songs. And I think she have a #1 right now. And they're going on tour. I don't know if you know the Queen
Yeah.
with her.
They're on
and
tour. Shaka, Gladys,
listen,
Stephanie.
I'm going to go to that concert. And I'm going to be sitting on the audit. I'm going to say, "Say nobody's supposed to be here. Say nobody's supposed to be here."
You know, it's funny. We had Mickey Howard on the show,
Oh, she's phenomenal.
and we asked her, out of all the songs out there you've heard that you were like, "Dang, I wish that one was mine." Yeah, that was a song she said,
I believe that.
and I could have heard that too.
I believe that.
So how did it get to Deborah?
Right.
It got to Deborah because the demo was crazy. First of all, but the demo sat around for a year. So after Patty turned it down, like literally there's a year. But we're sitting around like, what the hell are we doing in the business? We got a song like this and it ain't made it to nobody yet. And so I think Kristen was shopping records for us, my wife. At some point, everybody wanted the record kind of all at once. So I think at the point we were doing Def Soul, I think it may have wanted to go to Kelly Price. I think at the time, Sylvia Rohn wanted the record either for like Tamia and the people that she had over at the Motown. And Clive Davis at the time had the stable. Like he had like, I think either Brandy, Monica, Faith, Whitney, like he had. And so we're like, oh, Whitney Houston on this song? Like that'd be crazy or whatever. And with the stable of artists that he had, the caliber of artists he had, he was like, yeah, I want to do this song for Deborah. And I wasn't familiar with Deborah like that. So I'm keeping it 100. I knew she could sing. I knew the dance record, the first album and everything. But, you know, at the time, I'm like, you can give this song to Whitney and you want to give it to Deborah, you can give it to Patty, you know, you can give it to anybody, you know, and Actually, even Faith Evans was up for potentially to have the song, but somebody wanted all the publishing for the song, who shall not be named. But they wanted to
Diddy.
publish it. They wanted to.
I'm sorry. Did he?
Did he or did
No, I don't know. No, but those are the type of deals that were being done back then. Oh, I'll give you this money and I'll take the publishing. We were like, nah, I don't think we want to do that or whatever. And so when Deborah went in and opened her mouth on this song, my God, man, she breathed life into something that was just, it's remarkable, and it shifted time, and I'm super, super glad to know her and proud of her. And she made me a believer in the face of a lot of women who at that time maybe had more stature or had more visibility, more label push. She came through, man, and she got a timeless one with that one.
She got a timeless.
She got a timeless one.
So as you and Shep Crawford was writing these classic songs, what was the process? Was it lyrics first? Was it track? And you were writing to the track. What was the process?
We wanted to be the next Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. That's what we set up. That's what we were trying to do at that time. And so when he and I would be in the studio, Shep was a masterful musician. Before I was even a songwriter, I was producing. So I knew that MPC 60, eventually the 3000. So I knew how to program, beat, loop, samples, truncate, do all that type of stuff. I remember sitting in the studios, saying, hey, listen to that hi-hat. What's wrong with that hi-hat? Because it sounds like you need to gate it down and make it sound like so do that. So I that was part of the journey, that I was more on the production side. He was more on the musical side. And then the formula, because Shep is just amazing, bro. Like literally, he grabbed a hold of the production stuff that I was giving to him, and he elevated it to the next level. And then musically, even though we started out both piano and organ and stuff, he elevated it to the next level. So everything we did, he elevated it. So our formula was, he would come with ideas, he would have a crazy hook, like a crazy chorus, and he would be like, I need verses for this. So literally, when I first heard Nobody's Supposed to Be Here, the music was done, the chorus, you know what I'm saying, was almost there, and I probably only added to the chorus, my heart says no, no. It may have said or something before that. I don't know. I didn't add a lot, to that song, but I wrote, the verses. I spent all my life on a search to find the love will stay. So I'm a melodic. We're both very melodic, but the formula we had was that I would do mostly verses. He would do mostly choruses.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
One of my favorites from you two?
What was it? Bright lights and fancy restaurants, everything in this world gotta make a wall. I got a bank account bigger than the law should allow. Still I'm lonely now.
Man.
Catch it? We had Michael Jackson in mind. When we demoed it, bright lights and fancy restaurants, everything in this world that'll make a wall.
That would have been crazy.
Got a bank account bigger than the law should allow.
And he did have a bank account bigger than the
Lonely
law.
now. Yeah.
So
That's
that
what we
was
had in
for
mind.
Michael Jackson?
We had it in mind when we wrote it. When we wrote it, it was written. We had Michael Jackson in mind.
I gotta ask you, because everybody that watches the show and everybody here knows that I'm Whitney Houston fanatic.
Yeah.
What is the process of same script, different cast, and how did it come that both her and Deborah did the record?
That one as well.
Yeah, just
So I love that this story is a bittersweet story for me.
yeah.
Because I was, the journey of writing songs, this was a part of when our music team and the writers that we had assembled, because it was initially me and Shep, and then we brought in other producers, other songwriters, and we built up a pretty big stable, of Mad Money Records and all of that. And so at that time, what was happening was name value was extremely important. So what would happen is, if there was a song that I wrote 50% of, they would say, oh yeah, that song was written by Montell Jordan, But the song was actually written by Montell Jordan and Shep Crawford, or Montell Jordan and Shep Crawford and Dove Daniels and this and the other. But they go with the biggest name that they know. Yo, Deborah Cox, nobody's supposed to be here. Montell Jordan wrote that song. And so when a lot of that was happening at the time, that Montell Jordan wrote this song, Montell Jordan wrote that song, that allowed room for the enemy to come in and start to sow discord amongst. I remember even with me and Shep, and we've long grown from this journey, but it damaged us greatly back then, because I would be on a radio station. They'd be like, "Yo, man, you wrote that Deborah Cox record, this and that, the other, da da da," and I'd be like, "Yeah, this and that," and then somebody would call up Shep and be like, "Yo, I thought you wrote that song."
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "Well, Montell was on the radio saying he wrote it."
Yep.
Like we both couldn't write it. But
Couldn't.
what it did was it started to sow into people that we valued greatly, and they valued us greatly. But it was like, how do I ever get my shine if his name is always on stuff? So the reason why that song is bittersweet for me is because I'm listed as a songwriter on same script, different cast, which to me is one of the most clever, well-written songs.
Absolutely.
It is.
And then having Deborah Cox and Whitney Houston on that song was phenomenal. I think it came out at a time when when Clive Davis was leaving a deal, Arista, and starting to form J Records. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle and wasn't what it really could have been. But I remember I was in the recording studio. I had showed up to the studio late, and the whole team was there writing this record. Like this is a studio I was paying for. I wasn't even invited to the session. And I got there, I was like, "Hey, what's everybody doing?" They were like, "Oh yeah, we kind of, just writing a little song or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It was really odd or whatever. And so I remember walking into the room, and they were playing the chorus, and it said, "This is a retake of my life. I was his star for many nights. Now the roles have changed, and you're the leading lady in his life." And I said, "Lights, camera, now you're on. Just remember you've been warned." That's all I wrote on that song.
Really?
That's all I wrote. Lights, camera, now you're on. Just remember you've been warned. That was my contribution to the whole song. I may own 5% of that song. But still, after the song came out, Montell Jordan wrote this song. And that was part of the difficulty.
Everyone feeling away, basically.
Yeah. And I understand. I can look back and be like, man, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that there were amazing writers, but the thing was, I could not control
The narrative.
outside narrative of who also wrote on a song. It got exhaustive to the point of today, when you ask me, the song, I said, yeah, me and Shep Crawford wrote that song. Like, I don't let it come out of my mouth anymore that I just wrote a song if somebody else was a contributor on that song. But I learned, that was a tough lesson that I learned, to not allow outside get inside.
And it does make it bittersweet, because then you're not able to celebrate the win of it all.
I love what the
like
song
you could
was,
at the time.
but it makes it feel like, for me, like, even though the contribution, I believe, made the song better, but there's, I guess, a little part that feels like, well, you didn't really want me there. And so that's I've healed from that. But like I said, when you asked the question, the bittersweetness of a song like that is that I don't go around saying, oh yeah, this song I wrote. There are songs that I will say I wrote because it's been healed and mended, and I can give proper credit where credit is due. But then there are other songs that I may have just had a little piece on, and it just is what it is.
Dang.
We sound crazy.
That movie, but that song is a part of a movie that I would consider a cult classic.
Fighting Temptations.
Yeah, Fighting
man.
Temptations. And it has
It's on TV every other day.
the most insane, crazy casts.
Yeah, for sure.
Of legends and stars and musical icons. What was the experience like just to be a part of the set? And
Crazy.
Crazy.
Two immediate thoughts. I sat on the movie set because we filmed, I think we were like in Columbus, Georgia, or Columbia, South Carolina. No, we were in Columbus, Georgia when we filmed that. We were on trailers every single day. I would sit, and he'll tell you this, I would sit in the trailer every day because I had to come in like 3 hours ahead of time to get those fake tattoos or whatever, put on my neck, spiders, get my hair done differently. I would play, wasn't Xbox at the time. It was one of the video, I can't remember what the game was. I think it might've been PlayStation. Me and Eddie Levert would play PlayStation every day. He would come in every day before we would shoot, and I would whoop his ass. I would excuse my pastoral mouth. I don't have a better way to say it, but I would whoop Eddie's ass every day. While I come in, they would put the tattoos, get my hair, and I'd be on the sticks, boy. I would be giving them the business. That's one of the things I remember, that we had camaraderie on the set. I learned that I'm a better method actor if I'm going to do things acting-wise, method actor, because I remember being on set and like Cuba Gooding Jr., super, super funny dude. And he would be doing stuff and he would make me laugh, and I was wasting film. Like I'm wasting valuable film because I'm like, laugh, I'm not supposed to laugh. And then one of the actors basically said, hey man, you might need to be your character even off set. Like you can't maybe hang with everybody or hang when everybody's eating, doing everything. And so that character Johnson that I played, even though he was funny with the high-pitched voice, I had to be Johnson
all the time.
All the time. And that's how in certain scenes when I could be talking high, like, you know, and Cuba would be in front of me like doing all type of goofy stuff, I could just kind of be deadpan because I had been Johnson for so long. It was just like,
in your zone.
They're dead now. You know, I would give it to him. Very cool moment, man. I was just in Australia about a month ago on tour. And January, I was on tour. And I was at this huge festival. And a DJ started playing Seems Like I Always Fall Short Being Worthy. From that movie, I Ain't Good Enough. And the whole crowd over there
went up.
Were singing that song word for word. I'm literally backstage. I'm going, oh my God, they know this song to where
I tell you international cut classic.
Crazy, bro. That was a moment for me.
So you have a young Beyonce Knowles, as a lead character, who that wasn't her first note because she had done like hip opera and a few other like. That was a big deal.
That was her.
That was like the big.
Her pre-hove come out.
Right. So you have her on set. You have, first of all, the random one to me is Rue McClanahan. From the Golden Girls. Blanche.
Funny, bro. Blanche, man. We had such a good time on the set.
You hung with Blanche.
I hung with Blanche. I helped, just messed me up, man. Just
Angie Stone.
Yeah, man.
Memories of Angie Stone. From the set and in life, because she was larger than life and everyone has a fond memory. I'd love to get your fond memories on Angie Stone.
Damn, man. So Angie Stone and I were about to do a radio show together in Atlanta. And like when I say we were about to do a radio show, like the Wednesday before she was killed in a car accident, we were going to be filming that next Monday.
Oh, wow.
We've been working on this for a while. Southern Soul and R&B classics. My fondest memory of Angie, and I'm shooting a documentary right now on some of the stuff that happened in my life last year. But the day before I went into a major surgery last year, I got a phone call from Angie, and I put her on speakerphone and I'm filming it. And she's like, can I pray for you? And I'm like, yeah. And I got like a 3-minute prayer where Angie Stone is praying for me as I'm about to head into a surgery. And that's what I remember most about Angie, is that Angie loved the Lord and she was going to let you know that. And she just didn't play with her money. She didn't play with her family. And so we spent quite a bit of time together that the rest of the world never really saw. And so I think but what I learned, even at her funeral, what I learned was the way I felt that she was with me, like how I felt this entitlement, exclusivity with her that just she and I had. I realized she had that with a lot of people. And so I'm sitting feeling some kind of way, like y'all didn't know it, like, you know, but then I realized, oh, she was like that with anybody that she spent time with because she was real. And so those people had the same type of thing that I had. So,
Man, you mentioned having a tough year, and I also would we have to pivot to how powerful and how important your faith is
yeah.
to your life and certainly your career and your choices.
Yeah.
Let's start there, and then because I think that opens up a whole can of worms about the decisions you make and your recent experiences and how you come through those kind of things.
Yeah, sure.
But you have made it very clear publicly for a very long time now how important your faith, your belief in God, your belief in Jesus Christ is, and it's and that's often seen as uncool, uncommon. Dare I even say the kiss of death for an R&B artist? All those things.
Yeah.
So, what led to that decision to first of all change your life personally, but then also publicly and career-wise? I think it's a great thing for people to know you can be doing both, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to split yourself.
Right.
I just love to hear how that journey happened for you.
Yeah. Well, I made music my God. That's basically how it starts. If I needed something, school tuition for private school tuition, I'd have to go to God and be like, Lord, make a way. I can go do a halftime show for the Lakers. And a halftime for the show for the Lakers, give me a check, first class flights, and seats on the half court. You know what I mean? So I'll be like, well, I don't have to go to God for the stuff I could do, myself, And so eventually it wasn't about the stuff I could do myself. It was literally about the song became God for me. I could, anything I needed, well, I could do the song, I could do this, I could do that there. And so eventually I lost my identity in the song. I can even remember before people knew who Montell Jordan was, but they saw me from a video. They would be like, oh, this is how we do it. Oh, this is how we do it. So I became attached to the song. And then, so I would go to that song and I did not know who I was outside of that song. I put out a couple of albums, music, Life of Fame, Fortune. People didn't know you, but I didn't know who Montell Jordan was outside of music. And I would say in interviews, I'd be like, man, if I don't, outside of music, man, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I would be or what I'd be doing. And literally, I think God was gracious enough to say, if you don't know who you are outside of music, I'm gracious enough to show you. And so that began a stripping process, a stripping of fame, a stripping of fortune, a stripping of notoriety. God was gracious to me in the things that he took away from me because he did it in a way that I was hidden in plain sight. So I would be, on the 99-cent, the dollar menu at McDonald's for the family, going from eating at steakhouses to, scraping up taking the DVDs and the CDs back that I had purchased and trying to get, 30 cents on the dollar just to get money. And I'll be going through the airport somewhere. People are like, yo, Montell, man, where you been, man? You in the studio? Like nothing ever happened. Like I never left. And I was like, okay, so God at least shielded me so I don't look like what I'm going through. Right?
Yeah.
And then in that journey, God was gracious enough to show me who I am outside of music. And so I learned during that time period, and I'm talking crazy stuff, but we had house fire, we had lost a child, lost a record. Like just the story is crazy. But in that time period of brokenness, I found out I am a son, not just to my mother and father, but I'm a son of God. I learned that I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a friend, I'm a giver, I'm a writer, a creator, I'm a producer, I am an author. Like I learned everything I am without a mic. And in that process, I learned that what I do doesn't define who I am. Who I am defines what I do. And when I got that, then God was like, okay, I can trust you with music again. So that was the journey of, in that stripping process, that I went into full-time ministry. I said, I'm never singing them songs again. I'm never gonna sing This Is How We Do It ever again. I'm going all out for Jesus. I ain't keeping no tracks. Like I ain't keeping nothing. Like I'm going die hard for Jesus. Went, served in a church ministry, couple of years. I'm a worship pastor. I moved from worship pastor to executive pastor. I'm over the music. I'm over the men's ministry. I'm over the marriage ministry. A couple of years go by of this, and all while this is happening, this one music promoter keeps calling me and my wife every single year. She doesn't respond. Every single year. 3-4 years go by. He keeps calling. He keeps calling. Finally, my wife is like, yo, what do you want? You know? And he's like, I'm trying to get Montell to come do this R&B concert, like Silk, Keith Sweat, this, that, the other, all-star lineup. And she's like, you know he retired. He's like, yeah, I know. I've been following his career. And she was like, well, you know he's a pastor now. He's like, yeah, I'm a Christian too. I'm following him. And she was like, well, why do you keep calling? And he's like, because my show is really dark and I need some light. Mm-hmm. And so that was a journey where it was like, whoa, okay. His show is dark. He needs some light. So I go back to God and I'm like, Pepsi is coming, saying, we're doing a Super Bowl commercial. We want you to sing the song a different way. And this company is calling saying, we want the song. We've been waiting for you to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to God. I said, God, I said, you know, you told me don't sing that song no more, this, that, or the other. God said, I never told you that. He said, you told you that. So in the process of me killing my own idols, because remember, idols don't build themselves. We build idols, right? And so from that process, I made something an idol and I had to kill the idol. God wasn't going to kill the idol for me. And so I said, I'm never going to sing this song again. God never told me, I don't ever want you to sing that song again. So when I learned that I said that, I realized that I had to kill it, and I killed it. But I was serving a God that resurrects things from the dead, right? So my career then could exist where the question you are asking, I believe, is there's no longer a church Montell and a Kappa Montell and a family man Montell and there's one Montell, bro. There's one me. In the same way you see me now is how you see me at church on a platform. It's how you see me in a business meeting. It's how you'll see me on any stage. I'm not gonna dumb down my talk about the Lord. I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I'm not gonna code switch. Like I gotta be one Montell at all times. And that's the Montell that God loves the most. And so that was my journey from music business into ministry. And that's my journey from music industry, from the church back into the music industry. So everything that I do now on a stage, I think stages are for performances, platforms are for influence. I take every stage and I try and turn it into a platform at some point in time during a show or a performance. And I get to be the me that God loves the most. And was my journey that started on 51st and Hoover in church, sitting on the piano and the organ, into the music business, out of the music business, into the church. Yeah. And now I realize that those worlds are not separate from each other. They're the same. Yeah.
I think that's powerful for a lot of people to hear who may feel conflicted about feeling like you have to compartmentalize
or
yourself.
have to choose.
Or have to choose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's heart positioning, man, because if you are a person who compromises, then you'll compromise. Yeah. I just don't compromise. And not everybody can do that. Yeah. Because not everybody's free. I'm free. I'm a free man. And so as a free man, I don't have to, if somebody's like, hey, Montell, we want you to do this show or whatever, but they don't really like the whole churchy thing when you talk about the Lord, it's not for me then. Yeah. I'm not gonna compromise. I really need the money, so let me take that show and just dumb down my conversation. That's not me, bro. Yeah. That's not me. I'm not the guy for the job. I am who God says I am, and I don't have to over church nothing. I just live it out, and it is, it's magnetic. I think it is. You are magnets either draw or repel. Right. You are either drawn to me or you don't want to be in my presence because it's too much. But it ain't me, because I'm still the same goofy dude. I just got God, that resonates, that either makes people comfortable or makes them uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone that's dealing with shaky faith?
Oh, shaky faith. Keep living. Keep living. Yeah. I think that shaky faith is a result of lack of life. And I'm not saying it's a young person's thing. I think there are old people who are who haven't matured enough to be able to. But shaky faith comes from a lack of trust. It's not about faith. I think it's about trust. And when you have to trust God, that changes your faith level. You know, kind of innuendo. Last year, I battled cancer.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean? I spent a whole year battling cancer. And I got a diagnosis in January, February of 2024. And the entire year, I'm vetting doctors, I'm vetting materials, resources, medical professions and facilities. I'm traveling, I'm doing everything I can. And at the same breath, you know, I'm winning my first Grammy. Wow. I got an honorary doctorate from speaking the commencement at Cochran State University. I got a bunch of different things that are happening. Me and my wife celebrated 30 years of marriage. All of those things are happening while cancer is happening at the same time. And so from that standpoint, the journey then becomes, okay, do I trust you? This wasn't about faith, this is about trust. Like, because God, if I trust you, then my faith level goes up. If I don't trust you, then that's when faith gets shaky. You know, you're not gonna stand on something that you don't trust.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? And the thought process, I don't know where this is coming from, but the reality is, you know, most times when you go to sit down on a chair, you don't check the chair and look at to see if the legs are sturdy and this and that. You know what a chair is supposed to do. And so you walk into the chair and you sit down on the chair.
Yeah.
And that's how our trust in God is supposed to be, that we can just, I trust. I don't have to have that level of faith when I just trust you. You know?
We sound crazy. The Esther Roll
Award.
I think our most important segment of We Sound Crazy, which is what we call the Esther Roll Black Excellence Award. When we first started the show, Timon put us onto this song and this album. And we were like, man, we know Esther Roll for lots of things, but not that she did a gospel album in the 70s. And we just started kind of kicking ourselves about the legends that are here and no longer here that didn't get their flowers for all they were.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about a lot of this about being known for a thing or having that thing be your God, but also making sure that we're honoring the people for their musical wholeness.
Yeah.
If and when we can. So we nominate someone every single episode. We all throw in a nomination and we vote and we give the ERBY, the Esther Roll Black Excellence Award, to someone every single week that we feel just doesn't get the love they deserve for what they've done.
Okay.
So now you're part of the delegation.
All right.
I'll kick it off.
Go ahead.
I got it. We talked about this gentleman earlier in the conversation. A musical legend in my book, but does not get the flowers he deserves. I'm talking about Alexander O'Neal.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm gonna say Shep Crawford.
Wow.
Yeah, I just when I think back, of course, y'all know I'm always gonna throw it back to when I was coming up, but
When I was a young boy.
it's something about just the way that he produces. Like, there's always, it's theatrical, it's dramatic. It's just, it literally forces you to sit down and listen to what the story, the arc of the story is in a song. So
Dope.
I'm putting him on the floor this week.
Put him out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We spoke about him earlier as well. I'm gonna throw out Billy Ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a little
Okay.
Jamaican kid in New York, I was like, Caribbean Queen? I love this. And it's pop. And he can sing.
Yeah.
Yes. And he just had a huge everything kind of career and a tone
Yeah.
that doesn't get, I don't think we celebrate Billy Ocean.
Okay.
We were talking about Neo Soul yesterday and the founders of Neo Soul, but nobody mentioned D'Angelo. So I'm gonna throw out D'Angelo as because he is the blueprint for a lot of stuff, a lot of the soul music that we enjoy today.
You know where he's from, right, Chuck?
I do know where he's from. He's from VA.
Oh, my Lord.
2 up, 2
There they
down.
go.
What up? 804-757-703. What up?
You were ready.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just, he's the answer. VA. So.
It's natural.
I would say Eddie Levert.
Oh.
Eddie And the reason I would say Eddie Levert is because you're talking OJ's.
Yeah.
You're also talking solo career.
Yes.
You're also talking him and his son, Gerald Levert,
And Sean.
that did albums together as well. And so he was a member of kind of multiple groups, and his voice to me stands the test of time. And I think he's the type of person that has suffered a lot in the loss of sons and things like that. And his body of work has yet to fully be appreciated.
Wow.
That's true.
This is
That is
Stairway to Heaven. And
that's true.
like they got hits, bro. He got hits.
This is difficult.
This is difficult. Just to recap, we got Alexander O'Neal,
Yep.
Shep Crawford,
Yep.
Billy Ocean, D'Angelo, and Eddie Levert.
I'm sorry, Billy.
Is that how we eliminate? Is that how they fall by the wayside in this room?
Never had that happen.
Wow.
All right. So we can vote as many times as you want. If we hit a tie, we'll do the tiebreaker. But you can raise your hand for anybody that you're in
That you
support
believe
of.
in. That you
Okay.
believe, yeah.
Okay.
Alexander O'Neal, 3 out of 5. Okay. Shep Crawford, 5 out of 5.
All right now.
Billy Ocean,
I'm sorry, Billy. Sorry.
1 out of 5.
sorry, Bill.
Yeah, you said it. You called it. D'Angelo, I got to rep VA. 2 out of 5. A lot of haters.
Y'all are haters. Y'all know y'all like brown sugar.
I feel like D'Angelo get his.
Yeah.
I don't even see D'Angelo.
D'Angelo
When
gets
y'all
flowers.
see
To
D'Angelo?
me, he gets more flowers.
He stole my Soul Train award. That's why I can't love him.
There's some resentment there.
And last but definitely not least, Eddie Levert, 5 out of 5.
So we have a tie.
We got a tie.
So here's what I want to do
Okay.
for this one, because I love Shep Crawford, known Shep for many years.
Yeah.
We all went to church together in Compton, like when he was over there, and he's got his own church now. But also Eddie Levert is a legend and a great. I say we give both of these amazing brothers the everybody this
I actually like that.
Yeah.
I actually like that. I actually like that.
right? Feels
You see the kind of unity you've created here, because we would have normally fought, but we can't fight in front of
No, you can fight in front of the guests.
In front of company.
No, I out of loyalty for Shep, to me, he's one of the greatest producers and songwriters, of our time.
Yeah.
And then with Eddie, though, that's a legend. And I think that for me, I would be willing to give a half hand for Shep in the light of Eddie Levert. You can give it to them both as well. But if you're gonna fight,
I mean, if we gonna vote, then I'm just kidding.
right? I'm just saying.
No, I think we should give it to both.
Yeah, I agree.
Sweet.
I agree.
Congratulations to Shep Crawford and Eddie Levert. You are both winners this week for the Esther Roll Black Excellence Award.
I love that.
Ain't we lucky we got them? Yeah.
How did you like Poppy's Home when you heard it from Drake?
Nobody cleared it with me, so I didn't know. So it was a wild surprise. The content in the song with the language and stuff like that is stuff that it's not on brand for me, but it's on brand for him.
Yeah.
And it advanced the publishing of the original song more, which allowed me to recoup faster. So literally, after Certified Lover Boy dropped, my recoupment of my publishing and royalties, literally, I finally recouped with Def Jam after 28 years.
Gee.
Wow.
28 years.
It's really 29.
Wow. So kind of thank you, Drake, but also let me know next time before you use it. But thank you still.
It's like, thanks.
Question mark.
I mean, like I said, content-wise, it's super clever. It's dope used, but they used the whole song. It was just like a little 4-bar sample or 2-bar. Like they used the whole the whole song. So, but hey, it wasn't me.
Shaggy, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. But it's dope. It's dope. It was creative, and hey, we recoup faster.
Yeah. I'm just excited for actually what's to come.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you didn't know, now you know. Just what I'm able to experience here is just the mind of a genius. Because when you show how you put all together, the influences, and how literally you've been able to decompartmentalize your life into one powerful being that, again, like your friend said, brings light to the room. Yeah. The next phase is about to be bonkers.
Yeah.
I think what's exciting to me is I'm not done.
Right.
And it's not like I'm the old dude in the club, don't want to leave, not done.
Yeah.
I am literally, God has preserved me, my life, my penmanship, my influence is still waiting for the right moment to find its space in the industry again. And there's a lot of stuff in the business right now. And so that right moment when it happens, I'm excited to see it as well. And so I'm just preparing for it, just to be ready for it. I don't long for it. I'm not grasping for it. I'm not reaching for it. I'm good. Me and my wife love doing marriage ministry. We're cool with that. I love shooting a documentary. I think I'll probably put out a music project to accompany the documentary with creative new material and stuff like that. But I know my lane, man. I'm not going to try and be somebody that I'm not. And I think that there's a space.
Yeah.
There's a space and there's a rhythm and there's a wavelength, a place to be able to ride that the same way, you go from being Isley Brothers of decades of music to being Mr. Big, then to being, I think there's a space there. It's all about timing though. And I'm not in a rush.
Not in a rush.
Not in a rush. And that documentary that you speak of, and I do produce and direct, so maybe we should talk.
We should talk about that.
Yeah.
That'd
be good.
Because there's a story to tell.
Yes.
I know you haven't given all of it, but I can just tell there's a.
Oh, there's a story.
There's a story to tell.
There is a story, and there's a story being told, man. There's a story being told. So.
Make sure you follow us on all platforms at We Sound Crazy and WeSoundCrazy.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe below.
We sound crazy.
And shout out to the good people at Visit Music City. Thank you so much for your support.
Oh, man. Thank you, Montell Jordan. We appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Love y'all, man. Thank you, bro.
Love you too.
We Sound Crazy. Until next week.
Peace.
We sound crazy.